I kind of became my own publicist, like without even knowing. It was really just a matter of necessity. I thought if I can get people watching my videos, I will build an audience. And if I build an audience, I can get paid to do what I love.
Welcome to Log Off. Everyone has an internet story to tell, and today we're getting Dom Nero's. Dom is a writer, a co-host of one of my favorite podcasts, and a Webby Award winning video editor who's created many funny things you've probably seen on his social channels or in high-profile internet places like Esquire, Funny or Die, and Super Deluxe. The AV Club once said, Dominick seems determined to use his video editing skills as a force for positive change in the digital world. We'll psychoanalyze all of that. But first, Dom, let's start this podcast the way we always do. At the beginning, what is your earliest internet memory?
All right. Well, first, thanks for having me. I have so many early internet memories. Like being on video game websites and reading cheat codes that tell you to like walk into traffic while playing Pokemon Red to unlock Peekaboo, just like insane like forum stuff like that. But one of my favorite early internet memories is I had a website called the Nero experience.tripod.com. I did all the Flash animation for it, and it was all stick figures with my head, like dancing, eating popcorn, skateboarding. And I don't know if your listeners or you are familiar with this specific era of the internet, but me and all my friends had learned that Google's like ad revenue structure, there was some program that you could, like, it was a functionality you could put into like a website from a service like Tripod, and you would get like pennies on the click from Google. So we all did that, and we all told all of our friends and families and, you know, parents, and everybody is like clicking like just feverishly on our websites, and we're earning like $1.63 at the end of the month. And after all that, though, I never actually ended up making any money.
That's a great feeling when that first Google AdSense check comes in.
Yes,
even if
that's
it's
what it
only
was.
like
Yeah.
$11.
I don't like, I feel like even though we all did it and we all like committed to like trying to make money that way. I mean, we thought this was going to be like our jobs, like to just do that. Somehow we didn't end up actually getting payouts. Maybe Google like was aware of like teenagers doing this sort of thing.
That sounds about right. That's funny you mentioned Tripod, because we get a lot of like GeoCities mentioned on here, but never Tripod. So
xpages.com, I had that too.
Xpages. Did you have a web ring at the bottom, like where people could click to similar sites?
No, but I had a just like an old fashioned, like there was a form that you could just fill in to say like you had visited. So I had book. Like, yeah. It's like all of my friends leaving these stupid messages.
I wish we could find those. Like they must exist somewhere on some disparate server.
The Nero experience.tripod.com. It is, you can find it if you look far enough. I think you have to use the web, what's that thing called? The web archiver thing. The Wayback Machine. If you use that, you can find it.
All right, I'm going to do that first thing after we're done here.
Hell yeah.
What kind of stuff were you putting on there that you were hoping people would find? You said it was like animations with your head on it?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of like Macromedia Flash MX cartoons. Like I would make like stick figure cartoons, skateboarding cartoons, stick figures fighting. One thing I really got into was shooting stuff on my old like digital camera and then animating like stuff into it in Flash. So it was like multimedia.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, you're a big professional video editor now. Was that your first editing experience, was doing those?
Yeah, that was very early, but I think even earlier than that, my older brother Vince he was like the family like camera guy. He had a little DV camera, and he used to make videos like little like short films and put me in them. And then slowly I kind of like crept onto the editing bay. And I think it was a skate video that he made that I like just took over the edit for.
When you say the editing bay, was that like the family computer, or did you guys have like professional video editing equipment?
It was it was an eMac, which was
Oh
like
yeah,
the educational iMac. It was white, like translucent. It was really cool.
nice. Do you remember the first thing you made that got kind of wide recognition? I mean, I know in like the last 7 or 8 years, I've seen your stuff on Twitter like nonstop,
Hmm.
but there had to have been like that very first kind of breakthrough thing where you're like, oh, I can do this. I can get this in front of people.
I mean, there have been a few like turning point videos, I guess. I don't know how far back you want me to go. Like my brother made a video of me fighting my friend with sock and boppers, and that was like a huge hit in my family.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, this question is kind of like, when did you realize the power of the internet? Like that you could get it in
Okay.
front of strangers, basically.
Well, so I went to college at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I made a lot of friends on the improv team. I was on the ultimate frisbee team for a second, and there was a point where I had to choose between playing ultimate frisbee or doing improv, which is like the most embarrassing thing about me. I chose improv. Met all my friends there, and there was this thing at Rutgers called Campus Movie Fest. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's a nationwide program. It's actually really cool. Like they go to colleges all over the country, and the deal is you have to make a movie in a week, and they give you all the equipment. So they give you like a MacBook, and I don't even remember what kind of. It was like a little HD like DV camera, and me and my buddies made a. It was a it was a mockumentary about these two fictional silent film stars called Malone and Malloy, and it was like a you had your campus movie fest videos or films had to be 5 minutes long, and they couldn't use anything like copyrighted in them. So it was a challenge. Like
Mhm.
a lot of college kids that I know have done this, and we Malone and Malloy won best comedy at Rutgers, and that was like, oh my god, like we did it. And we went to Hollywood because it was like the winners can come to like Universal Studios for the National Campus Movie Fest. And we went out there and we didn't win anything, and but we went to Hollywood.
Yeah, that's great. Do you remember what did win, and was yours actually better?
I have such a special place in my heart for Malone and Malloy, Legends of the Laugh. That's still out there. Like that is something like go watch Malone and Malloy. Like I'm not embarrassed of Malone and Malloy. I think there's good stuff in there. Other stuff
Where
I've
do,
made I will run away from. That's on
where does
YouTube.
that live? It's on YouTube? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like
I'll
a
go find
video
it.
you can watch. I'm proud of it because that was one of the initial experiences where we all came together to work on something. I remember like editing all night at my family home, and like my brothers and my parents coming in and out and watching what I was editing and giving me notes, and it was just like a really positive experience, and I got so much validation that we were like recognized. um I don't remember what won in Hollywood. I know like there were some like prominent like filmmakers around that program. I remember
Hmm.
I think the keynote speaker or someone we saw uh was Mick G. I don't know if you know the
Oh
director Mick
yeah.
G. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
there like doing a speech.
That's funny. That was probably around the time he was doing the OC episodes.
I wonder. You know who also was there was what are those two guys called who write the Captain America movies? I think it's Marcus and McFeely. Like they did like a screenwriting little like speech, and that was like right before the Marvel thing had like completely exploded.
So then you take that kind of boost of confidence and then you go back to Rutgers, and what happens after that?
Then I'm like in. I then I have a I have a passion for comedy and for video, like from for as long as I can remember. And when I get back to Rutgers, there is an RA in my dorm. I stayed at this very cool, like alternative dorm called Demarest, where a lot of like artists and like queer people, and it was accepting of all kinds of people. And we all lived there. And this RA saw that I was editing stuff. He was also an editor, and he handed me this university like documentary job. So I started doing that, and then I realized, oh, I can get like validation from this, but I can also make money. And this seems like a, a very solid way to make money. So that's when it all kind of like kicked into gear.
And then your first job out of Rutgers, was that at Magdalux?
So yeah, myself and my friend Adam Volrich, who we host Eye of the Duck, our podcast together. It's our movie podcast. Um, he went to Rutgers as well, and us and a few other friends started this thing called Magnalux, which was just like a film production company. And we started doing like commercial and corporate gigs as well as making films. But I was lucky when I got out of school. I through a family friend, I got this gig at a nutrition company in the video department. So I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time that I could go straight from college, like working professionally in video. I didn't know how good I had it. I mean, that company had catered lunch. They had meditation breaks, yoga breaks. They had a chiropractor and a masseuse. Like I had no idea. I ended up
And
leaving that company to work for like a smaller production. It was like an architectural video production company. I mean, I was just trying to make rent, and I was like, screw nutrition. I'm getting out of here. I'm doing my own thing.
what kind of stuff were you actually doing at the nutrition company? Were you making like their, I don't know, advertising videos?
Yeah, they were a an online nutrition school, so it was a lot of
Oh,
like yoga classes and like
mm.
diet classes and stuff like that. But we had a little studio in there, and like me and like all of my best friends worked there. It's another reason. Like I had no idea how good it was.
So after that, do you remember, we kind of went over, when you realize the power of the internet with some of that like early stuff and then going through the Rutgers program, but do you remember your first kind of Twitter liftoff? Because that's where I mostly know you from, and where your videos are most prominent.
Yeah, so this was another big like inflection point for me. Honestly, changed my life. I was a like people who know me know I was like the biggest fan of Tim and Eric. I was always like, watching their videos and following them like to shows and quoting them, and like, whatever I could do to be a bigger Tim and Eric fan, I would be. And so when I was working at that architectural video production company that I mentioned, uh, I was, like a grumpy 20 something, and feeling like, I'm so much better than this. I have all these ideas. I want to make movies. I want to do comedy stuff. And I found like kind of like a home for my work on Twitter, just noticing that I can like get my work out there. Back in the day, Twitter was like a really good place to just like get noticed. And I noticed that you could like you could change your life, like just posting. If you posted enough, you could
Just
change.
posting through it.
Yes. So I was at that architectural place just posting away, making all kinds of videos, and I started making like mashups and supercuts. And I made this thing where I took all of the Geico commercials, which I was so sick of seeing like on streaming television. Like the ads were like, you'd have like three Geico commercials back to back in an ad break, which I think is still the case today. I just took as many of them as I could find, and I made every Geico ad at once, and I made this kind of like hellish like mashup. And it like I put it on Twitter, and it started getting attention. And it got the attention of Tim Heidecker, who was like my hero at the time. And right at that time, I had another video in the chamber, which was it was called Bill Cosby All by Himself. And I took a Bill Cosby stand-up set. This was like right in the midst of like the Me Too movement, and right when he was getting like, publicly, rightfully destroyed. And I took this stand-up bit that was somewhat relevant to what was going on in the news with him, and I removed all the laughter. So after Tim Heidecker, like, I don't know, he retweeted me or something. Um, I I like tweeted that video at him. I was like, I have this other project that I'm working on. Do you want to take a look? I can't remember if I DM'd him or whatever. Regardless, this was like the life-changing moment where he just like DM'd me and asked me for my phone number and called me up. And I so vividly remember leaving this job at this like very cramped, like, dusty, moldy office in Midtown Manhattan, going down the elevator and like messaging Tim Heidecker and being like, hold on, I'm going down the elevator. And then we talked on the phone for like an hour. And it was just one of those conversations that, people dream of. It gave me all the validation and confidence that I needed. Him just being like, who are you? Like, your videos are cool. I'm interested in your work. Maybe we can work together. And I don't like, I'm not like closely in touch with Tim. I don't know. I still don't really know why he like did that, but it made such a big change in my life. And from there was when I kind of realized, all right, so like I can like get this web comedy stuff going. Maybe I can, I can move out of this corporate commercial video hell and into like a more fun, like comedy video thing.
So when you got that kind of bit of validation from a hero, did you immediately make that leap into like, I'm just going to full time just start cranking out videos, or did you stay at the job and just kind of up your output for a while?
I definitely upped my output a lot.
Mhm.
So much that it probably scared away anyone who was like seriously taking like like was like looking at me. Like, they probably saw all the shit I started like like posting incessantly and being like, all right, dude, geez, we get it. But nevertheless, I managed like through that and through posting constantly to get some comedy websites interested in my work. There was a website called cafe.com that was like a political like news thing. It was right before the big Trump election, the first one. So that was happening, and I was making videos that had somewhat of like a political, like, savvy to them. And there just came a day where I had so much freelance like comedy video work like coming in that I told the guys I was working for that like, I can't do this anymore. I have too much else going on. And I just went full freelance, fully paying my bills, making comedy videos from home, just like supercuts and mashups of like, and it was fortuitous that the election was happening, and that was such a big moment for a place like Twitter. And right around that time, there were two websites that came back around in a big way. One of them was Super Deluxe, um, which had been like a thing like years ago at that time, and I was aware of it. I always liked their stuff. They went away, and then when they came back with like the Vic Berger era of Super Deluxe, um, they they caught wind of what I was doing. I forget exactly how I got in touch with them, but they started giving me edits or commissioning work from me. And at the same time, this other comedy website called Above Average, which was, it's like a offshoot of Broadway Video, which is Lorne Michaels' production company. They're connected to SNL. That was kind of like a farm team for SNL, or they would like take the runoff of SNL. They were doing what was called like actually, I can't remember what they called it. It was like a talent like incubation thing. Basically, they were hiring a bunch of youngsters to come work for cheap with the promise of like industry connections. And me and everybody I knew in the New York comedy scene applied, and I got one of the spots for video editor. Another person who got one of the spots on that was Ben Marshall, who now is on SNL as part of Please Don't Destroy. So I was like in amazing company there. And then that was my full time job working for Above Average.
It's a great experience. When you're at a place like that, are you mostly pitching the videos you're going to make, or as an editor, are people bringing you the ideas and then you have to execute them?
Well, I thought that I was going to be pitching stuff and like writing stuff and doing, like video editing the way I do it, which is like, uh, I mean, I've always seen myself as a creative video editor that like I want to be in the writers' rooms. I want to like have a part at the, a spot at the table. At Above Average, it turned out what they really just wanted was editors who would work for like work for cheap to make the content that people like Ben Marshall was writing and starring in, which I did. And for a period of time, I was editing a 5 days a week a YouTube show, which they would shoot in the morning, and then I would spend all day editing and getting up online by the end of the day, which was completely insane and impossible. And I did it for, I don't know, close to 6 months maybe. And then Above Average laid off everybody from that residency program. And they're like, sorry, goodbye.
When it comes to your original stuff that you pitch and you create, you really have a knack for making stuff that people want to watch and obviously share. Do you have like a brainstorm process you go through, or is this just like a switch you can never turn off?
I think it's the switch. Yeah. I think I've always looked for a place that I can like share my voice and be heard. And when I found Twitter, I found this platform that was, so long as your words or your videos are good enough, or I don't like attention grabbing, like you can have that platform. And once I caught that bug, like now I'm a father, and I have to like work to pay rent and to pay our bills here for my family, so I don't have as much time as I used to. But I'm actually struggling these days because I see stuff on the news, or I see like movies, or trailers, or just things that I want to make videos about because they're so funny to me. And it for a long time it really became like I could not stop myself. Like if I felt the impulse to make something, I had to stay up all night doing it. I just can't do that anymore because I'm a dad.
Yeah, that doesn't mesh
No.
perfectly. um, do you have any advice for video centric creators to make sure their stuff gets seen or breaks through? I mean, beyond sending it to Tim Heidecker and hoping he sees it.
I mean, look, like I definitely, bothered people. I was never above just like emailing anyone. I for the longest time, like in those early days when I was freelancing for Super Deluxe and cafe.com and like trying to get eyes on my work, I would go on sites like AV Club or Vulture or Daily Beast and just look up all the journalists' email addresses who wrote about culture, and I kind of became my own publicist, like without even knowing. It was really just a matter of necessity. I thought, if I can get people watching my videos, I will build an audience, and if I build an audience, I can get paid to do what I love. And so I would just straight up like email journalists, "Hey, I made this video of whatever Star Wars. I one time I subtitled all the droids in Star Wars, like saying silly things. Like I emailed that to like all the major journalists that I could find, which became very embarrassing later because then I was actually on staff at Esquire magazine, which was like one of the sites where I would be bothering journalists. And I would run into people in media and they would be like, didn't you email me like some stupid video of like Trump taking a dump like years ago? Yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. I was looking for attention.
Dude, you got to respect the hustle. Everybody's been in that spot at some point. So I'm sure they weren't judging you or anything like that.
I think that I mean, you know, I really do think when you're trying to get exposure, you really gotta do your own work and like your own publicity and just get it out there. Like, don't be afraid to just send it to whomever. I mean, I got a video to like Judd Apatow, and he was sharing it out, and it got written about on Entertainment Weekly, and then that snowballed into this and that. And then then all of a sudden I end up with a staff job at Esquire, or I was assistant editing for SNL. I mean, this stuff really, if people notice you, I do think it can lead you to where you're trying to go.
Yeah, that stuff, those opportunities don't come up unless you're shooting your shot. So that's a great call. You've made video content for a lot of places, like we've talked about. Do you have like a favorite creation from those years making stuff for other people?
For other people, it's hard because like when I worked for Super Deluxe, when I was making videos for them, that always, like a lot of these websites, they always felt like I was doing it for myself because it was like, I'm going to make this video that I want to make, and then Super Deluxe is going to like tweet it out and pay me for it. That's fucking crazy. One that I mean, I made a video for Super Deluxe called Beach Volleyball Butt Slaps, which I was very proud of, still proud of. I don't know if anyone has, worked in media, that the Olympics are something that is very hard to cover or to like satirize because that footage is like highly copyrighted or whatever. So I wanted to do a whole series of videos for Super Deluxe about the Olympics, and they said, okay, but we can't use any sports footage, like any footage of them actually playing sports. You can't use. So I took all of the clips in between the volleyball like match of the players just smacking each other's asses, and I made that like the Olympic sport, which I was so proud of.
Does that still live somewhere? Because I don't even know if that website's still up. Is it Super Deluxe?
That I know a lot of their stuff is gone. I think it's all it might all still be on their Facebook page. I don't know. Okay. Listeners, you want to watch beach volleyball butt slaps, message me. I will send it to you. I definitely have it in my archive somewhere.
I think I know the answer to this, but when it comes to creating stuff for your own accounts, first brand or media accounts, which do you enjoy more?
Yeah, I mean, for myself. I mean, I really found a lot of, again, validation and fulfillment and joy from writing for Esquire magazine. Like when I was on staff there, I was the video editor there for the longest time, before they got like a whole video team. But while I was there, I was doing the thing that I was doing before, like shooting my shot with all the journalists on staff. Like, I would be walking over to their desk and being like, we should do this, or I made this. And that snowballed into them taking notice of me and eventually taking my pitches for written work. So writing for like a very established and iconic magazine, I felt like so honored to be doing that. So I definitely love that. But on the whole, I think there's nothing better than making stuff for yourself.
Is there any advantage to making stuff for other people? I mean, beyond the paycheck, I guess the exposure.
Right now, I'm like, and I'll make anything to pay the bills for my family here, especially as a freelancer. I mean, especially in like the media landscape right now, it's pretty hard out there for video.
It's a nightmare.
For every kind of media professional. Yeah, but besides the paycheck, I mean, there's definitely a fulfillment and and a
Mhm.
purpose for that kind of work. Like getting commissioned by a publication that you admire or by somebody like right now I'm editing with my co-host Adam Volrich. He shot a feature. So we're editing it together. And so I guess technically like I'm editing, for him. It's not my
Mhm.
project, but it's pretty close to me since he's like one of my best friends. But I think when you are a video editor, you tend to work for other people quite a lot. So you have to find the joy in doing that.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of those outlets that you were making videos for were some of my favorites, and a lot of them are not around anymore. Do you have any hot takes about why so many of them had to shut their doors?
Well, Above Average is the perfect story of that, where like they hired a bunch of young people and called it, I think it was called the residency program. And it was kind of fucked up. Like I looking back on that, I saw that as like such a big opportunity for me.
Yeah.
But now when with some perspective, I don't know if I should have said no to that job, but I was certainly being taken advantage of like crazy. I mean, getting a YouTube web series out every single day from one video. I was doing all the work myself, the animation, everything, the titles, the color grade, everything. That was like kind of predatory and not great. And I've seen my fair share of those sort of practices from these big media conglomerates, and I would put the blame, 100% on them. Like that is 100% why everything is so tough for artists and creatives right now. It's them. It's not us. Like, we're doing our best here.
Yeah, I'm assuming a residency doesn't come with union protection.
Oh no.
That's there's just them skirting around that completely.
Yeah, I mean it was 100% just professional level, video jobs for less pay. That was all it was.
Jeez. All right, let's jump to something a little happier. In 2022, you won a Webby, which is arguably peak internet coronation, for Seinfeld: The Return, which is a 3-minute Seinfeld-Twin Peaks matchup. Can you take us through the process of creating that video and I guess what it actually is?
First of all, it was 12 minutes long. There were several like smaller edits I did. There was a trailer I did, but there is a 12-minute like super episode. It's a full episode of Seinfeld, as if it was a prestige television series that came back today in the style of like Twin Peaks: The Return. Um, and
We need to talk to the Webbies because the one they have on the website is only 3 minutes long, and now I'm dying to watch the
really,
12-minute version. Yeah.
they might have cut it down. Now that I'm remembering, I think the what you could put on their site, they capped at 3 minutes. So I think I cut it down for them. On my YouTube channel, you can watch Seinfeld: The Return in its entirety. Uh, that was that was during COVID. If you can't tell from the concept I just pitched you, me and my wife were living in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, spending all of our time together watching Twin Peaks, trying to do our jobs and trying to like mentally like survive. And I just kind of arrived at this idea of like, I need to commit myself to something big. Like I need to fill this time with something. This is my chance to like leave my mark. I need to make like the ultimate mashup thing, get it out of my system. I can do this. And I had this idea to do a Seinfeld edit in the style of Twin Peaks: The Return. I made like the intro credits for that like a long time before COVID. Um, Put it online and like nobody interacted with it at all. So I thought, oh, I guess this is a bad idea. But then during COVID, I like recut it a little bit and I put it online again. And again, my my old friend Tim Heidecker tweeted it out. this time on his own volition. And it got a lot of attention on Twitter. I started making like smaller, like episodic, like parts of that, putting them online, and that started building momentum. And then I stopped and I said, all right, I'm going to take all the work I did and fill in all the gaps and make a full episode of this. The film is using all modern day footage of these people from projects that you may not like immediately recognize. So like as I was editing it, I felt like I was, doing this like strange like dark magic, because it felt like, how is this cutting together? This is fucking crazy. Like this does make no sense. This feels like, these characters are together again on screen, and I'm just doing it from, Frankenstein cuts from like TV shows no one's ever seen, or movies that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in, that taking a scene out of that. And it really took off. And then, I submitted it to the Webbies, and I won for best supercut or mashup, I think.
I was going to ask if when you were putting it together, you knew you were sitting on award-winning internet content, but it sounds like you did. It sounds like in the process, you're like, this is fucking great.
I mean, I'm such a fan of Seinfeld and such a fan of Twin Peaks. So it was really like entertaining me and my now wife. Like we were just like loving, like I would edit during the day, or between whatever, and then at night I would show her what I made, and she'd be like, oh my god. Or she would be like, no, this looks like you just took two like different movies and smashed them together. But there was a sense as I was working on that like this has to reach people. Like this is just so stupid and ridiculous and funny and weird. Like someone's gonna like this.
This mashup won't be the last time David Lynch pops up on this episode. Can you describe your infatuation with him and his work?
I I didn't discover Lynch until like pretty later in life. I remember people in college always used to say, like, you should watch David Lynch. Like you're obviously a fan, or will be a fan of his. And like, oh no, I only like Tim and Eric or whatever. I felt like I was like above David Lynch for some reason. And then of course, when I finally like started watching his movies, they just really spoke to me in this like subliminal way. I have always felt like I have like, I have like the analytical, like film brained version, like the one who's speaking to you right now. And then there's this other like, darker, bizarre side of me that's definitely like in me somewhere. And Lynch kind of like, he speaks to like, he like activates both halves there, because he's got both in all of his work, I think.
I have a question from my producer, Jason, who could burst in here at any moment, but I know he likes to keep an aura of mystery about him. He's a Lynch guy and he's a Dom guy. And during prep, he told me, quote, Dom was the tip of the spear when it comes to Lynchian mashups online and the Seinfeld meme revival. I would want to ask him, does playing the Twin Peaks Laura Palmer's theme work with everything? Because it seems like it does.
I mean, sadly, Jason, the answer is no. It does not work with everything, because take it from me, I have tried it on pretty much everything.
Give me something that you tried that it did not work on.
That's a good question. I mean, recently, this is a good example of like, I have responsibilities as an adult man and father now, and I'm like trying to skirt them to make these stupid fucking mashups for Twitter still. I remember staying up too late one night recently when Joe Biden said, I won't drop out of the race unless like God himself comes down, or unless there's like an act of God. And then he got COVID. And I saw that as like such like that to me is like, that's a video. Like he says that, and then cut to, an act of God. So I took a scene from Eraserhead where the like disgusting, like demonic ruler of the universe in that film pulls the lever and like, affects change over all of us. And I thought, it's not the Laura Palmer theme, but I thought if I used those two clips and that Eraserhead footage, it would work. And it just didn't work. No. Sitting on my hard drive, though.
All right. Well, the Lynchian stuff is a good segue into Eye of the Duck, your film podcast with your co-host, Adam. I just want to say up front, like, it's one of my favorite podcasts. I love movies. I love movies, and I'm not a cinephile. But you guys love movies and you are cinephiles, and I feel like you don't really talk down to the listener, which makes it more engaging and inviting. I also listen to a lot of other movie podcasts that are like, they're like a good time, but they're a little rowdy. And I love that you guys are able to like be funny while basically doing NPR voice the entire time. So if you're in the market for a fun movie podcast, that's what I'm saying is, listen to Eye of the Duck. That being said, I do love origin stories. Can you talk about you and Adam's relationship and why you decided to start the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you. That's like everything that we have been trying to put out there. I'm so glad that you're finding it to be like that kind of show, and others are too. That's amazing. Eye the Duck, another COVID era project. Adam and I, have been collaborating for years, making movies together, making comedy stuff, and working on scripts together. And he was always saying we should have a film podcast, like we should do a show. And he really wanted to start a show. And I love Blank Check. I love movie podcasts. So it was definitely in the air. And then during COVID, it was that, the now classic story of it's hard to keep in touch with your friends when we're all in lockdown. And I remember very vividly riding my bike around the circle in Prospect Park and calling Adam and being like, okay, this is what I think we should do. And we started talking about Eye of the Duck and this concept from David Lynch, and it all just started falling into place. I think we only recorded like 1 or 2 test recordings, and then we're like, all right, like we're locked in. Let's just do this, man. Let's do it.
Can you explain the term Eye of the Duck for people who don't know what it means?
Yes, I can try. I try to every week, but it's still kind of difficult. So according to David Lynch, he has said this on multiple occasions. Every movie has an Eye of the Duck scene. So now that's like the surface level. To the layman, like it just means the most important scene in the film, the scene that defines the film. In Lynch world, like in Lynch logic, he says, if you look at a duck, you can look at its feet, you can look at its beak, you can look at its flippers or its wings, its tail, whatever, its feathers, but not like a duck could not be a duck without its eye. He says the eye is in the perfect place. The rest of the duck makes sense. It's just this perfect little jewel that's sitting there. I'm probably misquoting him, but this is my attempt to explain Lynch logic to you. And he says, from all the time he spent with ducks, he believes that movies also have this kind of crown jewel. A perfect example is in his film Blue Velvet. He says the eye of the duck of that film is when the character sings In Dreams. I think that's what the song is. Sorry to the editor. Yeah, the Roy Orbison song In Dreams. So there's that famous scene when the character is singing into like a light bulb. I've always been inspired by that concept. I think it's a really fun way to look at movies and kind of distill them to their essence. And that became like a challenge for Adam and I, where it was like, okay, David Lynch has this concept and he says it can be applied to every movie. Let's see if he's right. Like, let's do it. And that's what we do every week.
Do you have an all-time favorite Eye of the Duck scene?
I mean, we've done I think 182 recordings at this point. So there are a lot of them out there. Uh, okay, I'll give you a recent one, and I'll give you like an all timer. A recent one, we're doing a series on UFO invasion movies right now called Invasion of the Eye of the Duck. And I think the final sequence in Close Encounters with the lights and the colors and the sounds of the two, species communicating with each other. That's a classic Eye of the Duck scene. Really defines that movie. It defines Steven Spielberg as a filmmaker. It's all in there. But I think the simplest way to explain what an Eye of the Duck is the chest burster in the original Alien film. That's it. Like that. Just watch that scene, and you'll understand what our podcast is about.
Is that also the Eye of the Duck scene in Spaceballs?
I think we did do Spaceballs. I think I gave it. I think the Eye of the Duck for me was when they get their Schwartz tangled up.
Yeah, that's a tough one to argue with. The podcast is not short. Some of the episodes are actually longer than the movies you're discussing. What goes into like planning each episode?
So we have a researcher. I mean, we have a whole crew at this point. Our very talented researcher, Parth Marate, he compiles like a very comprehensive document for us. When we started the show, it was, let's talk about movies and let's find the scene at their center. That's the goal. We started doing like a production history segment where Adam would take us through the production of the film and I would like fill in the blanks. And that production history segment started becoming more and more important to the conversation of the film and the movie scene. That at this point, it really is like the meat of our show. Parth will put together our document, and then we also have a programmer and a digital producer, our friend Nick Long, who helps us compile and put together these mini series that we do. And yeah, we will. At this point, I think we can offer to you the comprehensive like podcast episode for whatever movie we're doing. Like, you want to know everything there is to know about Van Helsing? Like, we have an episode for you. It's probably like 3 hours long.
So the podcast is distributed by Amazon and Wondery through the Morbid Podcast Network. Can you describe like the mechanics and maybe advantages of operating a podcast within an ecosystem of that versus just like, recording and uploading yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the Morbid Network is fantastic. Ash and Elena from the very popular Morbid podcast, we had them on our show, and we, became friends with them, and they have a network that is distributed by Amazon Music and Wondery Plus, and we got onto their network with a bunch of other like really great shows. And so we were independent for a long time. And it's difficult. I mean, it's expensive if you want to do like a good show. I think you do have to pay for, I mean, you could do it all yourself. We did it all ourselves for a while, but once you start hiring like creatives to work with you, I think your show starts to get like really good. Or, I don't want to say our show is like amazing, but I'm proud of what we do, and I think I owe a lot of it to the team. The best thing about being part of a network is you can you can afford to have a team, and I do think artists deserve that. If we're putting in all this work every week, I think we deserve to be able to hire people and be able to pay our bills. And it's amazing that we can do this. It is my job now. I'm a freelance video editor, but also I'm a podcaster.
You're a video guy. The podcast is obviously audio. Have you given any thought to putting out a video product for it?
Yeah, we've experimented with a bunch of different kind of video ideas. I think our show relies so much on analysis and like production history that in my head, I've always seen like video essay kind of content for us, which we've done a bit of. I really love just movie clips with good narration and commentary. And I think as we grow more, I think we'll probably be doing more of that in the future.
You guys had a live show, I think it was last week. What's that experience like versus, recording in a room?
I love live performance. I did a lot of sketch comedy here in New York, and I'm definitely like familiar with being on stage or like writing for the stage. So I think like a live component for podcasting is great. Like it's a great way to engage with your audience and you know bring some fun to your show. Like I think Eye of the Duck can get a little bit academic and stuffy at times, so it's cool to like have some fun on. We did we took part in a screening and a Q&A for this movie Night Riders at the IFC Center in Manhattan, and it's amazing. It's like uh, I feel so lucky that I can be on stage at one of my favorite movie theaters in the world with my best bud, just talking about the movies that we love.
Triple threat over here. We've talked video, we've talked audio. Now you're a published horror writer as well. Can you talk about like what that process was like, putting that together?
Yes, I love horror writing. I love fiction. As I said earlier, I was lucky enough to write a lot for Esquire magazine. I was writing mainly about film, television, video games, comedy, but as I spent more time on staff there, I started writing more personal essays about like masculinity and mental health and uh, all kinds of things. Being Italian American, the scariest thing of all. And I found so much joy writing essays that I thought maybe I can bring this voice that I have developed, you know, into a fiction mode. And being a horror fan, it seemed like horror was a good place to do it, especially during COVID. So I started just pumping out horror stories. I have a novella. I have a book project. Many of my stories and a lot of my work is still looking for a good home. So if you're listening, got a lot of stuff I could I could show you if you want to publish some horror. But yeah, I think the ultimate goal with this stuff is to get some horror stories out into the ether, and hopefully they get translated onto the screen or at least read by people would be enough too.
Was it always going to be horror for you, like when you imagined yourself writing fiction?
No, I've written a lot of stuff that's just kind of more like auto fiction, like just personal stories and stuff. But um, I think comedy lends itself very directly to horror. I mentioned earlier, I think I have this like bizarre part of me like David Lynch has, and like I love engaging with that. I think sometimes it comes out in like silly videos, other times it comes out in terrifying horror stories.
You mentioned Adam's film. I'm not sure how much you're allowed to
Mhm.
disclose about it. What can you tell us about it?
Yes. So Adam, his feature debut, it stars Jefferson White, who you may know from Yellowstone, or he was on an episode of the Twilight Zone reboot. He's in the new Hellboy film that's coming out soon. Very talented actor. Adam's got a great cast, and yeah, it's like truly an indie film. Like he did it all himself. Raised the money with other people in the film, and brought me on board to edit with him. And it's been one of like the joys of my career and of like my artistic life to make a feature film. I mean, what could be better than that?
Have you finished the editing? Like, is it done in the can?
Yeah, we have a cut.
Mm-hmm.
We're not completely done. I'm learning now. This is also my first feature that the work feels like it's never truly done. I'm sure even when we lock up the cut, it'll be like I wish we could just change a few more things. So, but we have a festival cut that has been submitted to a bunch of places and shared with some people. So we'll see.
Does that process give you like a new appreciation when you are breaking down movies? Like, do you tread a little lighter with your criticisms?
It has,
Like maybe it's not as easy as it looks.
well, I have learned from Eye of the Duck that all films, the thing me and Adam say to each other a lot these days is all movies are miracles. Like even the worst movies, it's a fucking miracle that they exist at all because it's just so hard to make, like to bring into being a film. But I think what's actually happened is Adam and I don't want to speak for Adam, but like I've had to put my money where my mouth is now. Like I have been, criticizing movies and analyzing movies and like very talented, master artists and craftsmen for like 3 years now on this show. So now it's like, okay, like what do you got? Like you know so much about this shit. Let's see what you can do. And I hope we've done something, serviceable.
Have you identified the Eye of the Duck scene in the film?
No, but someone else has.
Okay.
It's funny, like doing this show, all of a sudden, like I'm constantly seeing Eye of the Duck scenes, like in movies or in books or in video games. Like everywhere I look, suddenly it's like, that could be the Eye of the Duck. But in this film that we are making together, like I'm still not sure what it is. Isn't that so strange?
You should get like Spielberg to host a special episode where he breaks down your film and he picks it.
Tear us apart.
Yeah.
It's probably what we deserve.
All right. Before we get into our dumb internet questions we ask every guest, I wanted to ask about that AV Club quote I mentioned in the open. Are you determined to use your video editing skills for positivity?
I think I am. I think that's pretty valid. I don't know if positivity is the perfect word for it. I think video is just such a powerful force for like criticism and commentary. Obviously film is the same way, but I learned making all of those political mashups, just how powerful it can be to just use actual footage of people and show like the hypocrisies like in real time, like on the screen, with like very simple edits. Like I think a video editor like Vic Berger is a good example of that too. Like Vic is able to just like modify these people like very slightly to expose like these gigantic like fallacies. And I just think that rocks. And it's such a good way to, I guess, bring positive change into this world.
All right, let's get into our dumb internet questions we ask every guest. Dom, right now, how many tabs do you have open on your web browser?
All right, let's see. Well, I got this tab for our recording, and embarrassingly, I have my own website open just to make sure I know enough about myself to be a good guest for you.
Do you read your bio every morning? Wake up and make sure everything checks out?
It's my favorite website. Actually, my website has to be updated. Like I should update it by the time you post this episode because a lot of it is dated. Yeah. But that's it. I am a low tab person.
Even when you're editing, I guess when you're doing your web videos, are you pulling from a bunch of sources and you're opening a bunch of things, or
no way,
still
man.
Keeping it pretty tidy?
I got YouTube if I'm ripping stuff, and I have this great software, which is not on the web. It's called 4K Video Downloader Plus. That's an application to rip video. That's all you need.
So you just drop the YouTube URL in there and it spits it out?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's not like these web apps where like you have to wade through like oceans of like
malware.
Yeah.
Just destroyed my entire computer to get a 3-minute clip.
That's antivirus software pop-ups that will give you viruses. It's just like my favorite thing.
Perfect. All right. When you open your social media apps, what are the algorithms feeding you right now?
Oh boy. Let's see. Well, dad slippers. That's been a new thing, which worked. I have been now in the market for dad slippers. I never was before, but a lot of times I'm taking my 1-year-old son like right out the door and I need something to throw on my feet. So the algorithm got me, man. Other than that, I am pretty honored and I'm very excited to say that my algorithm is just complete and utter chaos. Like when I flip through like Instagram reels, it's just like the most chaotic, like psychotic content. I think that the youths like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they have such a new perspective of what like web comedy is. Like I'll watch a video of like a man like like I don't know, like falling down the stairs set to the music of like a leaf blower, like just like the things that they are coming up with is it's genius. Like I'm so proud of them. I love what they have done. Do you know what I'm
Man,
talking about? Like this like brain
yes.
rot content.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old daughter. The stuff
Okay.
that, like when I sit over her shoulder and watch her TikTok, I'm like, what is happening right now?
I
But you're
feel
right.
like
Like I'm proud of it.
yeah,
It's creative.
they are taking it to places I never thought possible. I always thought getting older I would grow like crotchety, like curmudgeonly about like web content, but no, I'm all about it. I feel like that scene in The Last Jedi where Luke and Yoda are watching the tree, the sacred text burn, and I think it's Yoda who says uh, we are what they grow beyond.
I love that, man. That's perfect. I also I root for chaos in my algorithm because it means
Yes.
it does not have me figured out. Because that's
Yes.
the worst feeling when you know what's coming next every single time.
I mean, the algorithm is still kind of like new to me, like being
Mhm.
like a millennial internet user. Initially, I'm like all about it. Like like my first instinct with it is if you can figure out what I like and just give it to me so I don't have to like search for it. I don't have to
Yeah.
like troll through, as I said before, like oceans of malware to get to it. By all means, please. Like
Yeah,
our
it's
our
dystopian.
yeah,
It's dystopian but convenient, and I will take it
our
every time.
internet was a horrible place to navigate. If I'm sure
Yeah,
you remember. but
finding things. I don't need to find things. Let the things find me.
but now I totally the algorithm now is very predatory and terrible and should be destroyed.
Sure, but it's got its good side too. Favorite accounts to follow on social media? Or are you just relying on the algorithm 100% now?
I mean, I'm all about the brain rot. Any kind of brain rot I can find really sedates me. Being a father is very difficult. So
It's true.
watching people like I I don't even know how to describe some of the things that I see. That's how truly disturbed this kind of stuff is. Um, but other than that, like I'm still like very much into the old internet. Like I still use Reddit. I still follow like all the major publications on the social apps. That's still like, how I get my information and how I use the web.
What is a corner of the internet people might be surprised you're interested in?
I have found this very bizarre community of retro handheld video game enthusiasts.
Ooh.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is a growing industry. It's a very small industry, but it's growing where these Chinese companies make Android powered like Game Boys and tablets that have buttons and joysticks on them. They're getting amazing. Like at this point, you can emulate pretty much any video game console uh, that you want on one of these devices. And I just ordered one as recently as yesterday.
So wait, the content you're consuming is people playing on these or talking about them?
Reviewing them actually.
Oh my
There,
god.
you want to know
Okay.
a great account that I look at quite often? This is like maybe this is my dad brain. Like I just there's nothing left for me because I have no time anymore. There's a guy. His name is Russ, and his account is called Retro Game Core. And yeah, he just breaks down the latest and greatest handheld emulators.
I love this guy. Retro Game Corps.
Yeah. It's a good account. It's a good YouTube page.
500,000 subscribers. He's doing something right.
I mean, I'm embarrassed. Like what do people say when like what accounts to follow? Like back in the day, I would say like Super Deluxe or like, do any of those sites even exist anymore? Like I don't even know what.
Yeah, it's a lot. Usually the answer is some kind of creator that like they didn't expect to stumble into and just became obsessed with. It's usually something like that, which is kind of what this is. I mean,
I love, I am very into podcasts, but like, yeah, like Comedy Bang Pang or like Fresh Air with Terry Gross. Like, I don't think they need my recommendation. Mark Maron.
I'm subscribing to Retro Game Corps.
You know, it's
this is addictive.
A really good podcast that I don't hear enough people talking about is Radio Rental, which is hosted by Rainn Wilson, and he is in character as a video rental shop owner named Terry Carnation, and he'll do like a funny bit about owning this bizarre video store, and then he'll play you a clip of like the most harrowing, like serious, terrifying horror story told by the person it actually happened to. And it's real. Like it's like real people like sharing their experiences with like supernatural entities. And then it'll cut back to Rainn Wilson being like, and that was weird. It's like my favorite podcast. I've listened to I think every episode.
I'm going to subscribe to this. I love this like weird offshoot stuff. I guess when you're just like swimming in office residuals, these are the projects you can take on. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, I love that he does that as opposed to all the other celebrity podcasters who are just like, you know, let's talk about like the TV show I was in for.
Yeah. How many times can the same celebrities, like those permutations of them interviewing each other, like how many times could we listen to that?
Right. Yeah. Apparently a lot because they keep coming out every day.
That's very true. What is the last thing that made you truly laugh online?
All right. Let's look at some brain rot here. I feel the need to like actually describe this stuff that I've been referring to. So let's see here. Maybe one of these. What's this? Here we go. Yeah, I mean this one is kind of tame. It's just a monkey like running around yelling. Like that's where I'm at now. I think fatherhood has like hollowed out my brain. I'm just so tired. Oh, did you see this one? This is a really good Toy Story. That's the other thing about kids today. Like here, I put this in the chat. They are able to animate stuff like it looks like an actual Toy Story film, but this is like a terrifying nightmare that somebody made out of Buzz and Woody talking from one of the Toy Story movies. Like I could only dream of making stuff like this.
Yeah, when we were growing up, it would take Pixar 40 days to render something like this.
Yeah.
Now they're just whipping it out in CapCut.
Exactly.
I don't have the sound on for this, but it's making me laugh.
Yeah, the images should do a lot for you.
All right, we'll make sure to put that in the YouTube version.
I wish I had. I mean, yeah, I wish I had. Like, I had a really great time listening, and I was laughing my ass off. Taran Killam and Kumail Nanjiani were on an episode of Comedy Bang Bang, and Taran Killam was in character as Longlegs, the Nicolas Cage horror movie monster. Yeah. It was an incredible episode of a podcast, but again, like I don't think Comedy Bang Bang needs my recommendation. The most popular like comedy show on earth.
Yeah, thanks for the deep cut on that one. Okay, let's get to the dark side. What was your most scarring moment on the internet, if you want to disclose it?
Ooh, scarring. I don't know. I mean, I've never been like canceled, thankfully. That is a big fear of mine. Not that I have like cancelable offenses, but I think anyone who is like somewhat public online these days, I feel like we're all like, oh God, did I do something that, was I mean to this person? And they're gonna, yeah. But I feel very lucky that I've had like a pretty positive, uh, 10 years doing this online comedy, online video stuff.
Man, that is refreshing. Usually someone has some nightmare. Everyone has some nightmare, but
I mean, I've had nightmares, but
yeah.
not like, I don't know if I would, I mean, I can blame the internet for completely consuming my life and like really ruining my mental health at points of my life. I have a much more healthy relationship to it now, thankfully. So just I'll say that.
Yeah, so not a moment, just a slow drip of sanity going
Yes,
away.
yes.
There you go. All right. And how do you pry yourself away from devices or log off? Do you have any special tactics besides, you have a child to take care of?
Yeah, child's a big one. I mean, he literally just grabs my phone and like throws it on the floor. So like that's a great one. That'll work every time. But on the whole, I did go through like a very serious like log off period. That's why I was initially like very excited to hear from you guys, because I was really like, blowing that horn of like, yeah, like log the fuck off, never post, like get off. I was so addicted to Twitter for so long. It was such like an oppressive, suffocating force in my life. And I mean, this kind of coincided with I got laid off at Hearst. I was working for Esquire. I got shuffled around to a few different parts of that of Hearst media, and eventually laid off, which was awesome because I was just about to have a child. So that was cool. And right around that time, it was like, all right, like I don't need to be online anymore. This isn't my life. I don't work for an online company. I'm just going to go full freelance video editing, back to basics. And a really good way I would say to listeners to log off is to use a nicotine patch of something that is less addictive and slower than your favorite social platforms. Like Reddit was a very good nicotine patch for me, or Letterboxd, or the video game Letterboxd, Backlogged. Those are all sites where like the internet is still slow. Like if you want to, interact with Reddit, read the news, you have questions about like how to fix your toilet or like a book recommendation, like it's going to take some time. You have to post, you have to take the time to write a post, you have to wait a couple days for all the, to filter out all the psychos and the comments and like, and I think that's a healthy, that is my healthy way to engage with the internet when it's a little bit slower.
I love that because I feel like that's a throwback to the healthiest time of the internet. I mean, when people were
Yeah.
taking time to read blog entries before
Mhm.
video, before doom scrolling, you had to seek out things.
Not having like 20 different things like rammed into your eyeballs at once.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
when you
good time.
finally do have the I don't know, self-awareness to close an app, you just open another one.
Yeah.
It's not a great feeling. Just cycling through.
This is making me feel old. Do you often feel old doing this show of like talking about like the heyday of the internet? Like I don't feel like I'm not
Yeah.
that old of a person, but
I catch myself every episode talking about the golden age. And it's like
it wasn't
not a great
that
feeling.
Yeah, it wasn't that great then either. I mean,
we had to go sit at computers to consume this stuff.
That's
and
true.
I'm sure we were rotting away a little bit in that way.
But we are part of that generation that like I say like on our Matrix episode of Eye of the Duck, uh, that film is like an Eye of the Duck movie, I think, for our generation because Neo has to choose to log on. Like when he takes that pill, he wasn't born into the Matrix, I mean, it gets kind of murky because I guess he technically was, but like we were not born online. We were
Right.
born, in a time when you could choose to take the pill or go outside. I have a lot of worry and anxiety for the generations who were born online. I don't know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, it's not going to be good, I don't think. I don't know what's better though. Like we saw the before time and we still chose to engage
Because
this after time.
It's so great. I mean, there's so much to do. I remember my friend, I very clearly remember him saying, like, I will never be bored. Like, there is never a reason for me to be bored because the internet exists.
You'll never be bored. You also never be alone with your own thoughts, which maybe isn't the healthiest thing.
Yeah, but your thoughts are overrated at the end of the day.
That's
right?
true.
If
I don't remember.
Sweet handheld emulator content, just constant chatter in the back of my head.
When does the handheld arrive? How much time do you have left before?
You know, they come from these Chinese companies, and they're all kind of like I don't fully know what's going on because a lot of them will just ship with like games just on there, like Nintendo games. Like, so it's definitely not legal. So it's always kind of a crapshoot with these companies. I don't know when it's coming from China. I'm hoping within the next week or two because I got a lot of games I'm going to play on that thing.
It's like when you make like a purchase off of Instagram from a Chinese company, it's like creating your own surprise Christmas because you have no idea when that's coming. They're not sending you a tracking number right away.
And some of them have been known to explode, which is really cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Like if you charge them with like too powerful of a USB-C like fast charger, they'll just like blow up.
Wow.
So there's a little danger involved.
Yeah. That'll teach your child not to touch your game if it explodes in front of them.
Oh God. New anxiety unlocked.
All right. Where would you be without the internet? I'm very interested in this answer.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot of shit about the World Wide Web, but I would not have the career that I have today. It's part of my very complicated relationship with a place like Twitter, which I, despise. Like that website, especially now, I think is a horrible hellscape run by complete like fascists, like shitheads. I root for its destruction every day.
Yep.
But its alternatives, like Threads, is run by another like technocratic like maniac. So I don't really know where to go anymore. But I would not have my podcast. I would not have my career, all the stuff I got published at Esquire, all of like the, proto brain rot I made. Like, where would it all have gone? I don't know. I truly don't know where I'd be. I mean, I met my wife online on a dating app. We matched on all of the apps. So like,
how many apps were you on that you guys matched on?
We matched on the Holy Trinity. We Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge.
Wow.
After that third one, it was like, all right, we got to meet in person. We got the high score. I would not have a child if not for the internet. Isn't that crazy?
You might have had it with someone else you didn't meet online. You never know.
No way.
All right, we'll cut that for now. All right, what is the one thing on the internet you'd save if it all went bye-bye tomorrow?
That Toy Story video, probably. Probably like Wikipedia, like the all of the knowledge of the known universe is just there. Like, I hope that doesn't go away. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, that Toy Story video, does that resemble your tripod videos in any way?
Oh yeah, my stick figure fighting cartoons. I would definitely want to save them. My skate video, Dynamite Skate Team. We had a skate video. That would definitely save that. Let me think for 1 second of like, what is the video, the greatest video I've ever seen?
Was it your Rutgers video?
my film? No, definitely not. I would save, this is a throwback, but a video that will always make me laugh. And I urge your listeners to go find this. Kelsey Grammer falling off the stage while he's speaking. It is so funny. He's just like doing some very dramatic like monologue, and he walks off the stage and falls. And then
trip through It's a Small World, pretending I was a UN interpreter. Oh, good Lord. Oh.
he has such a funny reaction. It's just so good. It hits every time.
Thank you so much for bringing this back into my life. I had forgot this exists, and it really is the perfect video because he's such a pompous ass.
Yeah.
He goes down.
I don't know where I would be without that video.
Oh, man. I might show my kids that video tonight.
should.
That's how excited I am. All right. Thank you, Dom, for this discussion and for your many contributions to the internet. This is Ryan Perry saying, log off. The internet will still be there when you get back.